I think the first and main point that the opponents make is the question of competence. Is the city government going to run an electric utility with the same competence as a company that is devoted entirely to that purpose and has decades and decades of experience?
It is a legitimate question. Now, there are examples of cities that have been running their power companies for years,
Right.
very competently. It's a unique skill set. You've got to have people who are very knowledgeable about a lot of very complicated issues. Are you going to build your own power plants? Are you going to build your own solar and wind, or are you going to buy power from other places? And if so, how are you going to buy it? Are you going to invest in a renewable energy plant in the middle of Mojave Desert and then have that electricity imported into the city? These are all highly, highly technical questions that are not for novices. So that's point number one. Point number two is the financial side of this. Running this kind of a utility is very complicated from a capital investment perspective, from a maintenance perspective, and then from a perspective of setting reasonable rates so you can bring in enough revenue to make sure your operation is run profitably. Now, the good news is you don't need a margin of return that a utility needs, but you still need a profit because you're going to have reserves to maintain the infrastructure that you are now owning. So a lot of very complicated issues, but a lot of cities have done this, and they've done it very well. The last thing you want to do, however, is end up in a situation where any community that does this all of a sudden ends up with higher rates compared to neighbors. And then people are going to start leaving the city or starting to complain. The other point I want to make is that if you look at other areas like water, the Denver Water Department is a highly sophisticated enterprise. Probably one of the best water systems in America. I would say run far better than a lot of other private water companies that I'm aware of. So it is not necessarily true that a governmental entity cannot run a utility of some kind. And we've seen examples both in water and electricity where municipalities have done it and done a very good job and have served their customers quite well. I have a little anecdote here to tell you. My father was appointed to the first Public Utility Commission in Brownsville, Texas, when the city of Brownsville decided to own its own electricity.
Water or electricity?
Electricity. And I remember he used to stay up late at night reading about turbines and all this kind of stuff. He was a layperson. Somehow Brownsville managed to do it. Took a long time, and they didn't do it overnight. And maybe it was a different set of circumstances in how they started that. But again, there are communities who own their own electricity systems and do it very well. So those are the issues that I think the people of Boulder have to review and study very carefully. But you get very smart people who are working on this. They know all these issues, and we've simply got to, at the end of the day, conclude: do we have a reasonable amount of certainty that we can do this profitably to the extent that you need surpluses? You can do it in a way that doesn't make us uncompetitive with surrounding areas, that doesn't increase rates because that's basically a tax on people, and can achieve these other goals that we want to achieve in terms of using renewable power and cleaner energy. Those are all things that are doable if the plan works.